Hello everyone, today we have a video about dry fasting and physical and mental detoxification, a very important aspect of fasting. It's not just physical things that occur, but rather many things that are internal. We get a calm that will settle in during the fast and especially afterwards if the refeeding is managed well. So we're going to talk a little bit about dry fasting and mental detoxification, about calm, about serenity, things like that, which truly constitutes something that is included within the scope of fasting, something that must genuinely be integrated as a complete component. Dry fasting is not merely a physical therapy, it extends much further, bringing many internal elements to the surface, enabling you to touch deep depths. So we're going to try a little to break down this aspect of detoxification of the mind. So we often hear today about brilliant individuals, even highly motivated people, and so forth, who tell me, I don't know what's happening to me. I don't have a clear mind. I feel confused. I am unsure of what I want to do in my life. I have to make decisions. I can't manage. I don't know. I don't feel like I fit in this job, etc. We really live in a time of overstimulation, physical, nervous, constant, too many inputs, too much stimulation, lack of time to do things, too much food, too many stimuli, we don't know anymore. Fridges are full, we don't know what to eat, there are too many things, too much noise, too much internet and social media, and so on. And we, our deep self, was not designed to function in this excess of elements. For 20 to 30 years, we have had overstimulation from many things that came to us through modernity, through the internet, these new things arriving which actually fry our brains. Thus, when the body is saturated, both physically and mentally, it causes confusion. It becomes complicated to have clear ideas, to know where we want to go, to be able to ask the universe and for those requests to come true naturally. Ask and you will receive, so I like that concept. So when we have overloads, physical and mental, well, the connection with the universe, with everything around us, we have beings entangled with the universe, so we have resonance chambers. Consequently, finding your way and your path becomes much more difficult when you are confused on all fronts. Hippocrates had already observed this more than 2400 years ago. There was a long time ago, when he stated that when nutrition is excessive, illness develops. So he already understood we must always return a bit to the ancients, go look at what they said. These great sages of medicine, there are plenty among them like Paracelsus, Avicenna, etc., Hippocrates, etc. All these great health prophets always had very, 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 very accurate. So this is where fasting starts. In physical and mental detox, it's the number one weapon. Now, people can criticize. There are always those who criticize us, whether they are all sorts of distractors who don't. I really notice now on YouTube, there is now a plethora of therapists, doctors, fake doctors, experts of every kind. There you go, these people, it's always the same thing. All these people criticizing fasting have never even skipped a meal. They don't even know what 24 hours of fasting is. They have no clue. And these people will give you theories about fasting, that it's dangerous, that it's this, that it's that the body needs glucose to work. We quickly debunk all this nonsense because science has perfectly validated. That fasting, there are studies, we know how it works, we know the physiology. Some believe it will destroy the brain or lead to diseases like Alzheimer's. When you hear these individuals who spent 10 years studying at university and who present theories claiming that fasting is dangerous and so forth, if they were a little bit smart, they would go look at the literature a bit. Before criticizing a method, you first need to know what you're talking about, what experience you have before judging a therapy. There were recently people who permit themselves to say things completely off topic when they do not know the specific domain, and that it is truly unbearable to hear these people offer critiques without any actual experience in that precise field. Therefore, you really must, if you encounter things where people are saying these are what we call fake news, people demolish a method, a technique. In this case, fasting, people love to criticize fasting. Often, when we dig deeper, we realize they have never fasted, that they have never read a single book on the subject, never researched, never tested anything, never observed or supported anyone. They have no clue, and they allow themselves to say things about the subject completely false. So that is my brief outburst on the matter. I remember a participant, I always like sharing anecdotes a bit, who told me, but Michel, during the fast, it was well, of course, I see that I'm losing weight. I see that I'm drying out day by day. All that is good. But what impresses me the most, I always remember this, is the silence. It's the calm I have in my head. It's impressive. I feel really good. And so, if I can share one small anecdote, it is truly this one. It is this calm that brings where people are led. After several days, these famous tonic effects that create a natural sedative for you. So it is a state of being that fasting induces, which is entirely comfortable, relaxing, and guides you toward a total physical and mental detoxification that is regenerative and which allows you afterwards to be able to connect internally and resonate better externally. Once you are cleansed of numerous elements, you establish a contact with the external world. That is amazing, where synchronicities arrive. You know, you get a sign, yes, that's it. I need to go do that for my well-being. I need to take such action. You receive information. You are loaded with information. You are being contaminated by your unhealthy nutrition. You have your job, the toxic environment surrounding you. You have many of it. It weighs you down. It weighs you down. Fasting is the top tool to cleanse and reconnect with yourself, and when you connect well internally, then externally, everything will get better. You will draw the appropriate circumstances toward yourself, where you have, I won't talk too much about finances, but you might, there you go, have a better salary, find a better job opportunity. I don't know anything, there you go. But you will attract better things to you when you become a better version of yourself. Through physical and mental detox, you will definitely attract it. You will reason in a much more significant way. People will sense you much better in a positive way when you have done this work of cleansing. Physical and mental, and dry fasting is truly the best for this. So I have not only observed that, I have witnessed an individual. It's always the situations we hear that people tell us. It's this calm, this serenity when we are fasting. And especially when you finish, this calm sets in. Indeed. So today we have many people who work in the hustle and bustle due to overstimulation. The modern body is subjected to constant demands, to a massive inflammation. I remind you the sensitive CRP, blood sugar changes, people eating too much sugar, carbs of any kind, they have a constant digestion. Permanent digestion makes us lose so much energy. I remind you, it's 60% of energy. So if you're always digesting, you're always tired. That's it.
Therefore, the crucial element is taking necessary pauses and then consuming nutrition that is tailored specifically for you, individualized, that matches your needs. And regarding that, there is no miracle diet afterwards. There are better dietary systems than others. If the food combinations work well together, if we have maximum digestibility, if we manage to prevent fermentations, which are primarily triggered by carbohydrate excess, all of this will compromise the digestive process and result in fatigue for you. This is what we commonly observe. So Avicenna said, so this is Arab medicine. Well, I don't necessarily have a connection with them. I am not a practitioner of any religion, but we should still look at what the old masters said. Nature heals when nothing obstructs it. This is precisely the modern obstacle. The body, it stops self-regulating, it stops self-healing, but we must give it space, right? So fasting, well, it creates a metabolic shift. We create that famous metabolic switch. We move from carb nutrition. We are no longer glycogen fed. We switch to fat oxidation, which will give us a clean fuel for the whole time you fast. There you go. And then when this dietary approach stops, the body knows how to survive. It knows how to adapt. It switches so from dependence on glucose to ketone bodies, so that famous beta hydroxybutyrate, which is the fuel number one for the brain, it's what repairs the brain. So I remind you of neurogenesis. It will encourage BDNF, the brain-derived neurotrophic factor, the growth factor for brain neurons. So it will rather alleviate in diseases like neurodegenerative ones like Alzheimer's, contrary to what other people tell us, exactly the opposite, that fasting will create Alzheimer's disease. When you hear this kind of nonsense, it's exactly the reverse. So that's Walter Longo, it's published. There have been studies that really show the benefits of fasting. Even short fasts significantly impact neurogenesis. So they restore the brain. It is the ketone bodies, the BHB, which is truly the premier fuel. Number one for the brain, that crosses the blood-brain barrier, that nourishes, that is a treat for the brain. It is truly the number one food. It's stable fuel, which sustains you over the long haul. So you certainly have more sustained concentration while you are fasting. Now, it's not necessarily what I recommend, having worked during the fast, because fasting is introspection. It's a return to self. I don't recommend sending fasters to take work files with them to retreats. That's not what I recommend. I always tell them, but do that in your own time, but not now. Try to enjoy being with yourself and then to do constructive things. Take care of yourself, but don't load up with files. That's a bit of a waste to work during the fast. But for writing, we could talk about it. Someone who wants to write a book, to do it during fasting periods, perhaps, why not? It is a meditative activity that is not overly taxing, that is debatable, right? So you don't have those energy fluctuations that rise glucose dependent during the fast. There you go. So all that. The ancients had already observed this, even without understanding the biochemistry involved. They understood that fasting resulted in a detoxification, a purification. That's why religions established all kinds of purification through fasting, like Lent, Ramadan, or Yom Kippur. All world traditions have always included fasting periods, so if it was implemented, it's not without reason. It wasn't just pulled out of a hat, as I say. The fasting was rooted millions and millions of years ago. There you go. Therefore, dry fasting has an intensity truly beyond other types of fasting. We introduce a dimension that is significantly more potent, physical, psychological, and mental, where you will face a variety of challenges, and then it's a clear signal sent to the body. It's an adaptation.
As soon as you start a dry fast, your body tells you, there you go, adapt quickly, there are conditions severe arriving. We hit the switch, there it is. So Paracelsus said thousands of years ago, only the dose makes the poison. So well conducted, it's a hormetic stress, dry fasting. So well managed, this hormetic stress, well controlled, will naturally promote the well-known mechanisms of fasting, like autophagy, the mobilization of fats. You will lose an enormous amount of weight, fat and toxins lodged in the fats, heavy metals, things like that. This controlled and adaptive stress will enhance internal vigilance. It will work on your metabolic flexibility. So many highly experienced individuals in the practice in fasting tell us, there you go, so I have a better presence to myself, I feel centered, I have perceptions, finer inner ones, I sense things more. That is what occurs during the fast. Then a crucial element we must address is these well-known limiting beliefs. This is one of the main aspects. So we are truly addressing something significant. Because the transformation isn't solely physical for the body, there are also these belief systems. That fasting knows it will shake up, in fact, there you go. There is Tony Robbins who talks about it a lot for decades. He's quite a motivating coach because he really has the energy at his age, 65 years old, he keeps going. Watching his videos is quite fascinating. So he explains that many of our blockages don't come from insufficient abilities we have, but from our limiting unconscious beliefs, the blockages we had in childhood. And then saying, there you go, I'm not capable, my body is too fragile, I don't have enough discipline, I won't make it, etc. So that's the case. Fasting, when well managed, confronts your inner beliefs, your inner fears, and it unlocks many things, meaning you become a new person afterward. That's what we seek, because when you are trapped in a health problem, an illness, you must change your vibrational state, you must change who you are, in fact, to get out of the problem physically and mentally. Therefore, fasting acts as a launch pad to transition to something new. So regardless of your location, the place is irrelevant. The key is undergoing this shift through fasting. Afterward, naturally, if you are with pleasant company, you will have a good week. In a place like we have in our retreats, you genuinely bring about this physiological change, shifting your vibrational state, resulting in a body that is detoxified. You have truly lived an experience you can be very proud of. And all of that brings immense joy and inner strength to you. Following a fast, one notices their body has become more adaptable. We manage to better withstand unforeseen, complicated things. The mind is much more stable. We are less disturbed when we get news. I remember during a 10-day dry fast, even if they had shared the worst news of my life, it would not have affected me in the slightest. You are so far outside all that. Repetitions too, it's clear that if you fast once in your life, it's good, but it's not a one-shot deal. What matters is repetition. It's like sports training. It's the training that counts. So dry fast must be practiced regularly. At a minimum, it's one dry fast per year, 2 to 7 days. That's what I do. That is the minimum. And then there are shorter dry fasts. If you wish to undertake longer periods, perhaps 5 days, multiple times a year, that's certainly an option. I prefer to extend the duration slightly to challenge certain aspects and ensure good regeneration afterward. Indeed. Also, I heard an interesting anecdote a faster once shared with me. The most surprising thing, the aspect that changed the most for me during this fast is really that I feel less afraid of things. That interested me because there are
are many things moving in the body during fasting. You lose weight. There are really physiological elements that come in.
And it is true that fear is really something we see in many people.
Less fear of hunger, less fear of thirst. If you forget your bottle one day when you go, I don't know where, you are quite calm. Even in the mountains, I, who often go to the mountains,
I see people saying, "Oh, I forgot my canteen, I'm done for."
well, okay. Now it depends on the exertion level. If you are power hiking, there you go.
But if you are walking calmly, you don't necessarily need water to last quite a long time. If you walk calmly, there you go.
Dry fasting is not a sport, it's not a physical competition. It is truly
A process of working on yourself, your physical, mental, and spiritual being. There you go. So dry fasting, let's be clear, is about
mental cleansing. Water fasting is not merely about cleansing, it's not some magical cure, but it genuinely targets the modification of your body's physiology.
so it's always the same.
Mechanisms: less insulin, less inflammation, autophagy starts. Cerebral energy stabilization. Be clear, sharp, in your thinking, for mental clarity.
And joy too, rarely mentioned, but after adapting, many fasters describe unusual peace, emotional lightness,
A very stable mood, sometimes joy, inner calm. So there it is, and the philosopher Spinoza once stated, joy represents humanity's transition from a lesser state to one of greater perfection. He said this key phrase.
Therefore,
For him, joy is not an excitement.
it is an augmentation of one's inner strength, of one's very essence. We find that it is self-control.
We know where we want to go.
The body operates in a more vibrant, more connected, and more coherent manner, and also more alive. Then, group energy, very important in the retreats we can analyze. In a group, you have a support that you don't find when you fast alone.
You have this psychological support, even if you don't ask the coaches or us, someone is there for you, reacting 24 hours a day. So this psychological support, physical support from the coaches allows you emotional stability, allows you motivation, a commitment, because you have a structure that is there
To support you, to guide you. Additionally, you gain the energy from the other participants who
bring what they are. There are mirror effects. Everyone will resonate with something that touches aspects within ourselves. And there is a whole process happening
on one's memories, on one's decluttering,
to truly rediscover who one is. And it's all these exchanges
which prove to be highly productive,
that bring a lot of intensity, joy of self. When you engage in this practice communally within a group setting,
you really have nice things. You are happy to be there and to share your experience in a group, to be able to express it, express your emotions, your feelings.
All that is very liberating.
So doing it in a group is really interesting.
From a therapeutic point of view, you have these group synergies you don't find when you are alone facing yourself. Alone, there you go, these are two different things.
No single approach is effective in isolation. Hippocrates stated this, and I prefer to reference the father of medicine.
Hippocrates insisted on overall hygiene, so always think when you are
in the fast, when you are going to resume fasting, always keep in mind these pillars, either lifestyle, the nutrition that will follow must be adapted.
It will perhaps be necessary to add movement.
It will perhaps be necessary to change things in yourself, to clear out certain elements from your life. Decisions must be made. Dry fasting compels you to
make decisions, to make changes, micro changes to change energy afterward because you don't want to stay as you were. So dry fasting really pushes for these changes so that you can restart on a positive trajectory. This is why dry fasting serves as a launchpad for change, for liberation, for renewal, to initiate something new, to take a new direction, to make a different turn in your life, to experience a change of scenery, to go towards something else you always wanted to do. Dry fasting acts as a catalyst to address those areas. It is a global tool, in fact, for physiological, physical, internal transformation. So dry fasting also brings the return to self because you are confronted with yourself a lot. And then dry fasting pushes toward this introspection very intensively, and this occurs quite naturally. So conclusion, dry fasting is a return to the essential. We live in a world too full. Hippocrates also had this phrase that said, "There you go." Before healing someone, ask them if they are prepared to relinquish that which causes their illness. Dry fasting is not an easy solution, but used correctly, it can be an extremely powerful, effective tool, a metabolic tool, a means to recenter, to calm down, to be able to see where we want to go in our life, to make good decisions, and to be able to find a meaning to one's life, in fact. So that concludes everything for today. I will see you soon for the next video. Bye bye.